Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2449. This is the last show of the year, 2023. I can't believe this year's gone by so fast. And I wanted to take some time to celebrate those past Cars Yeah guests that we lost this year, do an in memoriam show for all of you as a reminder of some great and inspiring people. I believe it was Abraham Lincoln who said, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. These inspiring people all lived their lives surrounding themselves with their passion for people and the automobiles they loved, and I'm honored to say that they had become my friends. Their impact on the car world and the people they encountered created lives very well lived, something that we should all aspire to in this new year. So let's begin. Robert Ingram passed on March 28th of this year. He was my guest number 453, so a rather early guest back in February of 2016. Bob was a general partner at Hatteras Venture Partners, a venture capital firm that invested in early-stage life science companies. Imagine all the lives that he touched. Prior to joining Hatteras, he was CEO at Glaxo Wellcome, a big company. His passion for automobiles spanned his entire life, and his success in business led him to collecting cars, and more specifically, Porsches, which you all know is my favorite mark. The Ingram collection is focused on preserving automotive history while driving and sharing their cars. He often drove, showed, and shared his cars, and many were featured in the book Porsche Unexpected, which was published by Coach Built Press. It's a wonderful collection of photos by Michael Furman, another past guest here, in collaboration with Randy Leffingwell. There's another one. And Cameron Ingram, who's Bob's son, who's also been a past guest here on Cars Yeah, and today runs Road Scholars, where they acquire, restore, and sell vintage Porsches and a lot more. Today, Cam continues to expand on his father's legacy of driving, sharing, restoring, and enjoying cars. And I'll say, having spoken to Bob many, many times, seeing him at car shows, always had a smile on his face, always gracious, always took the time to stop and say hello. And when I interviewed him, his parting words of wisdom were, "It is your family and friends that are far more important than fame and fortune." How true is that? The great Robert Ingram. Alex Finigan passed April 19th of this year. He was guest number 256 back in May of 2015. Alex Finigan was the sales manager and an integral part of the magnificent team at Paul Russell & Company. They restore and maintain arguably the finest historic motor vehicles in the world. They perform a full range of care, including mechanical, coach building, paint, upholstery, parts, and so much more. Alex was bitten by the car bug way back in 1959, and he had worked on and restored automobiles throughout his life. His business partner, Paul Russell, continues to run the company today in Essex, Massachusetts. Alex was one of those guys that at one point in his life realized, I need to work on cars to be happy with my life. And he made a transition, and oh my, look what he did. He was always so nice. I would run into him during Car Week every year. He would always walk me around a car that they had brought to put on the lawn. And many of those went on to win Best of Show, Best of Class at Pebble Beach and Amelia and all the other great shows around the country and the world for that matter. Alex was just a wonderful guy. His parting words of wisdom were, old cars need to be driven. Life is short, so enjoy yourself. Wise words from Alex Finigan. Peter Vincent passed on June of 2023. He was a very early guest of mine. He was actually on the show twice, but his first appearance was show number 116 in May of 2015. He came back to be guest number 628 in 2016. Peter Vincent was an artist. He was an author, a master photographer who'd been working with the landscape of the Bonneville Salt Flats for over 20 years at the time I interviewed him. 40 years of photographic art, combine it with the subculture of land speed racing and the pop culture of the American hot rod. He was a regular at the Salt every August for Speed Week, never missed a gathering. He published numerous books on the automobile, and his work had been displayed in museums across the country and around the world, including many permanent collections. His fourth book, when I spoke to him at the time, The Bonneville Salt Flats, 20 Years of Photography, was spectacular. It was released in 2013. Peter's fifth book, The Rolling Bones, was a wonderful walk through hot rod history. His images have been published in many magazines, including the Rodder's Journal, Hop Up, Hot Rod, American Rodder. His iconic 7 Coupes photograph taken in 2002 appeared all over the place. And the interesting thing here is, for years before I started Cars Yeah, one of Peter's photographs hung in my office for years, hangs in my house today. It's a piece that I bought long before I met him. And when I had him on the show, I realized, oh my gosh, this is the guy whose photograph I've been looking at for all these years. How cool is it to be able to talk with him and become his friend? Peter's parting words of advice were, find your passion and do it. Enjoy what you're doing and never stop learning. Words that he lived a very spectacular life by. The great Peter Vincent. Reeves Callaway passed in July of this year. He was guest number 550, and the talk I had with him was so wonderful and so long that I ended up making 2 shows. Done that with some guests in the past. I just didn't want him to stop talking. He kept sharing this incredible light that he had. Reeves Callaway was the founder of Callaway Cars, Callaway Engineering, Callaway Carbon, and Callaway Competition. His life story was so expansive. Since 1977, he and his team provide driving enthusiasts with maximum satisfaction by producing specialty vehicles, and boy, did they ever. Their engineering services perform product that showcase technological sophistication, artistry in design, and quality, plus beauty in craftsmanship. He also shared on his show the history of his father. It's quite an amazing history as well. You may have heard of that Callaway Golf Company. He was a driving instructor, a designer, a builder. Reeves Callaway created an iconic brand that lives on today. He was just a really, really special guy. When I had him on my show, I just felt like I was talking to an old friend. And he remained friends. He would reach out to me quite often. We would chat. I really miss old Reeves. His parting words of advice were, always try to be grateful for the people you know and have been influenced by. And boy, is that my life these past 10 years here at Cars Yeah. Great wisdom from a great man, Reeves Callaway. Paul DaCruz passed in August of 2023. He was guest number 1783 in January of 2021. Paul was one of those guys that makes a podcaster's work very fulfilling. Paul was a Cars Yeah listener who reached out to me, befriended me by offering help, suggestions, connections, and he even invited my wife Jill and I to come up and visit him and tour the wine groves that he was part of up in California. Paul was the president of Cross Communications, and he worked in advertising, television, and publishing for over 30 years, but he was a true diehard car guy. His career began in large in New York City at ad agencies planning multi-million-dollar media buys for brands including Jaguar Cars, Diet Coke, and Miller Beer. He's held advertising positions with the Golden Gate Chapter BMW Club and the Pantera's Owner Club of America. Paul founded events including a BAM3, the Bay Area M3 Club events, which were the largest gathering of vintage BMW E30 M3 cars on the West Coast. The event raised money for children with medical disabilities, something that Paul was very proud of. And of course, if you knew him, he liked to reach out and help people. He's done work for Corvette Magazine, Bimmer Magazine, Excellence Magazine, and Sports Car Market Magazine. And in his spare time, he loved to give his friends and clients tours of the wine country in his vintage Jeep that he called Paul's Tipsy Taxi. We'd become great friends. I was so sad to learn of his passing, and his words of wisdom on his show here were, if you're going to sell a car, buy a new set of floor mats for that vehicle. You'll get a lot more for the car. Typical Paul, always looking at ways to improve things. He was taken way, way too soon. I'll miss Paul and our wonderful conversations. We probably spoke about every month. Lastly, a giant in the car industry, Peter Mullin. He passed in September of this year. He was guest number 424 back in 2016 when I was just trying to make something of Cars Yeah, and I was so happy for him to take time. He was up at his home in Big Sur. We had a wonderful chat before we recorded the show and after. He was so kind. I tell you, Peter Mullin. If you knew of Peter Mullin, you know what I'm talking about. He's the co-founder and chairman of the board of M Financial Holdings, Incorporated, a network of independent firms that served the financial and life insurance need of corporations and executives. The empire he built was just spectacular. His lifelong romance with the automobile, though, particularly French automobiles, culminated in the Mullin Automotive Museum in Oxnard, California. If you've not gone there, you have to go see this museum. It will blow you away. He owned one of the finest collections of French cars in the world, and the museum is a tribute to these vehicles in a spectacular setting for the public to enjoy. Peter sat on the Peterson Museum Board of Directors, along with numerous other organizations, universities, and groups. He just gave and gave and gave. And in 2015, Automobile Magazine elected Peter as their Man of the Year for being the driving force of the newly redesigned Peterson Automotive Museum. His donation of $15 million to the Art Center College of Design made a huge impact. Peter's passing, oh my gosh, he was one of the greats. So many people knew Peter, and he was just so knowledgeable on so many things when you spoke to him. Just a wealth of knowledge. His parting words before he left Cars Yeah, when I got to interview him, were think carefully before you restore a car because it's only original once. My condolences to the families and friends of these amazing, inspiring automotive enthusiasts. All of these gentlemen are sorely missed. As we enter into the new year, I encourage you to remember to never take a day or an hour, nor a minute for granted. Live life the way my recent guest, Bob Gurr, who's 92 this year, advised us all. You get one free life. Use yours right up to your last gasp. I wish all of you in 2024 a very healthy, a very happy, a very prosperous new year. I want to thank you all for listening, being a part of the Cars Yeah world. Until I see you down the road, Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.